those, good morning in Harris Hall, and those joining us online. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Lane County Board of County Commissioners to order. It's Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. As I was speaking to some folks in the audience, there's still a lot of uncertainty about what's happening, and I read something in a book this week that I thought would help us all to consider the times we're in. Consider it a sheer gift, friends, when tests and challenges come at you from all sides. You know that under pressure, what you believe about your life is forced into the open and shows its true colors. So don't try to get out of anything prematurely. Let the challenges do its good work so that you do your best to meet them head on and take care of them in due time. So I hope that encourages you today. As to our flag, which continues to stand as a testament of unity and collective sacrifice for those that have gone on before, I express my sincere gratitude for all those that have served under it. And thank you for joining us, colleagues. Good morning to all. How are you this morning? And good morning to you, Mr. Mokrahajski. Good morning. Looking dapper as always. Thank you. Any adjustments to our agenda, sir?
No.
How about any emergency business?
No.
Well, good. We have a limited time to get through some public comments. We do have a 10 o'clock time certain, but it looks like the set we have and a few online, we can still allow 3 minutes per person, which I think is awesome, and I appreciate you coming and giving us your time this morning. Public can speak here in person at Harris Hall or online. The time is limited to 3 minutes, so we will please ask you to watch this clock on the board up here and stop at the 3-minute mark so we can be fair to each one. You can also submit public comments to our website in writing at least 24 hours ahead of our meeting to be included in the weekly packet. We respect your First Amendment rights as a tool to address your government with grievances and opinions, but we also admonish all to do so in a civil manner and to be respectful in expressing yourself. As board chair, I personally wish to request public commenters to please eliminate direct and personal attacks to particular board members in these public testimony times, as they seem unproductive to addressing the real issue and important issues to our constituents. When you come to the podium right here, please state your name for the record, and I'll call the first one up and those on deck, so please be prepared. The first one is Fran Munkenbeck, forgive me, and Bill Compton on deck, please.
Thank you. I'm concerned about the future of the Lane County Public Health Reserve Corps. I volunteer with the Corps, and my comments are my own thoughts and not of any organization. The Lane County Reserve Corps was formed as a medical reserve corps of SERV-OR to help in public health emergencies and in disasters in Lane County. The Reserve Corps and the county obtained a grant through the EPA to build 6 resilience centers in Lane County that would open as a place for people to stay when their home is no longer livable due to a disaster. That grant has been rescinded with the new Trump administration. Most of the people in the Public Health Reserve Corps are volunteers, but there's a Corps coordinator and a field operations supervisor who provide the planning and structure of the group. Their salaries were to be funded by the grant, which no longer exists. Without the funding, the 2 job positions in the organization dissolve. I spoke at Lane County Commissioners meeting in January 2024 after the winter storm. I was a volunteer at Eagan at the Springfield Memorial Site during the ice storm before the county declared a state of emergency. We took in not only the chronically homeless, but other people who lost function of their homes in the ice storm and had no place to go. The police dropped them off and some walked in. Many had significant medical needs, but the ambulances were also strained, so people stayed with us till paramedics could come to transport them to hospitals in Springfield. I know one elderly lady who was quite ill, unstable, and I stayed with her until an ambulance arrived for both her and another person in order to take them to a Springfield hospital. We found places for all who came, young and old, but we got low on food, we lost electricity the last night we were open, and porta potties overflowed as no service could come to pump them out due to weather conditions. I was thrilled when Lane County Public Health Reserve Corps got the EPA grant, so we had 6 resilience centers throughout Lane County to help during disasters, to care for people during times of needs. Over the past few years, volunteers have been formally trained through courses at the volunteer expense when not free, and through formal exercises in order to be ready for disasters and to care for people in need. However, we just lost the grant to support running the organization, including the salaries of 2 paid members who are the backbone of the organization. They are wonderful people, and they know what they're doing. I know Lane County cannot replace the dissolved grant entirely, but please consider basic funding so the Reserve Corps remains active and ready with the 2 employees in order to adequately respond to disasters that will continue to come, funding or not. Thank you for your time and willingness to listen. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Bill Compton, followed by David Yarnick, I believe.
Morning, it's great to be here this morning, and thank you for serving Lane County. I appreciate your leadership. My name is Bill Compton with Cornerstone Leadership Consulting, and I've left a note there for you, a letter of recommendation for Carl Wilkerson, Chief Deputy, soon to be, I hope, Sheriff of Lane County. Let me begin by saying that my father, when I was younger, told me this wonderful, wonderful statement of timeless truth, and I've used it over and over again. He says, "He who walks with the wise grows wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm." I've had the privilege of walking with Carl Wilkerson for 8 years. In fact, I've found in those 8 years, Carl Wilkerson to be a man of impeccable integrity. I've also discovered that he is an excellent communicator, and he loves to work collaboratively with his people. And he's a visionary leader. In my studies in preparation for my company, I searched many philosophies of leadership, and one of them that stuck with me was visionary leaders need transactional leaders. Well, I'm here to share with you after 8 years, I've noticed that Carl is an amazing transactional leader. He's able to efficiently and effectively surround himself with good people, and they're able to accomplish objectives and goals for their organization. And I had the privilege of working with him in establishing the HAWC, the Health and Wellness Center for LCSO. In fact, I was privileged to chair the first meeting in which we hosted Cliff and Carl and the captain of LCSO, and we discussed the needs for LCSO to be more productive and efficient. And Carl said what would be wonderful is to have a health and wellness center so that our deputies are the very best on and off the job. And so I was privileged to work with him in the planning, the implementation, and the final construction of the HAWC. And in fact, Lori, I was there when you were there to tour that beautiful facility. What a wonderful, wonderful facility it is. Through the hard work of volunteers and, of course, the collaboration with Carl and others, we were able to bring that to LCSO. And so I'm privileged this morning to recommend to you, without reservation, and appeal to you that you would swiftly and prudently ensure the integrity and confidence of LCSO as it is, and so it will continue to grow without interruption by appointing Chief Deputy Carol Wilkerson to the position of Lane County Sheriff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. David Yarnick, followed by Emily Heilbrunn, please.
Good morning. My name is Davin Yannick. Lori Trigger, you are my commissioner. Thank you. I'm here today to address the fact that the Lane County Sheriff recently resigned and will be leaving on May 16th, and to ask the commissioners to conduct an open recruitment with public interviews for the next candidate for sheriff, and to ask finalists if they will uphold the Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act, and to ask the finalists if they will create and update policies to protect immigrants and transgender people, and to remind everyone that Jesus was an immigrant. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Heilbrunn, followed by J.P. Lemke.
Good morning. My name is Emily Heilbrunn. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a resident of Eugene. I'm a member of the Trans Alliance of Lane County and also of United for Immigrant Justice, which is a network of organizations and community members concerned with immigrants in Lane County. I join others in asking you to conduct an open recruitment for this position, including public interviews of the finalists for Sheriff of Lane County. All candidates for this position should be asked if they will commit to upholding the Sanctuary Promise Act and if they will commit to updating and creating policies protecting the rights of the transgender and immigrant communities. This is an important and powerful position, and the community deserves to hear the views of the candidates who are considered, especially with regard to their commitment to follow the statement adopted by the Board of Commissioners on April 22nd. Their views will affect people's lives, particularly those of immigrant and trans people housed at the Lane County Jail, but of everybody housed at the jail, as well as other people in Lane County who come in contact. The interim sheriff must commit to following the Sanctuary Promise Act to the letter when housing undocumented immigrants, and especially when the jail is contacted by federal immigration authorities. Sometimes trans community members are housed at the jail, and the interim sheriff must be someone who will commit to developing and following policies that will result in their being housed appropriately and treated fairly. So for all these reasons, I urge you to conduct an open process in deciding who should be the next interim sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you. JP Lemke, followed by Rob. Can't read the last name, but Rob, you're up after JP. Thanks.
Good morning, Commissioners. I speak today as an organizer for the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and I'm talking about the sheriff position. At the meeting last week, one of the public commenters mentioned the Institute for Sexual Science, which met its end at the hands of the Nazis in 1933. They raided their libraries and burned their books. This acute act of persecution was a preamble for much worse atrocities, which of course extended far beyond the destruction of queerness as an idea. It also serves to remind us in the present day that powerful right-wing forces will not just limit attacks to a single group of people, but extend their claws to the next nationality, gender, sexuality, race, or whatever characteristic they choose to target. The current attacks on trans and immigrant communities by federal politicians are treading dangerously close to this historic example. The Trump administration pushes bit by bit, testing to see if people will accept a new form of cruelty as legitimate or if we'll push back. They have eliminated chosen gender markers from passports as a culture war victory. Maybe they're blind to the consequences of someone who looks, acts, and dresses like a woman but carries a document with an M in it through security. Maybe they don't care, and maybe they welcome the harassment. They have also shifted from attacking undocumented immigrants to attacking green card holders and those with temporary protected status. Sometimes successfully eliminating due process and incarcerating individuals who have not been convicted of any crimes. The majority of the commissioners seem to understand the parallels between the step-by-step systematic infringement of civil rights and the unconscionable acts of the German Nazi state. The statement that the county released several weeks ago upholding Oregon's status as a sanctuary state reflects a deep understanding of the need to protect oppressed and working people, especially those in targeted groups. The choices we make now not only reflect the values of the community as they exist today, but determine how those values morph over time. We stand at a juncture right now. Do we go to war with our neighbors, our fellow workers, and our family members? Or do we unite in our differences and solve the actual economic problems that plague our community? Who gets chosen as the next county sheriff matters in this fight because they have the power to enforce the county's promises and commitments. How they are appointed matters. Therefore, we need an open, transparent recruitment process where all finalists will be publicly interviewed. Each candidate should be asked directly in the public record if they will uphold the Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act, as well as the county board's commitments to create and uphold policies protecting the rights of trans and immigrant communities. I ask that the commissioners take their commitment seriously and act justly in spite of mounting federal pressure. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob, followed by Amanda Noble Flannery, please.
Hi, I'm Rob Fissette. I'm here to speak also on the issue of the hiring of the new sheriff. And I have many of the same considerations as other speakers, but there are a couple of things that I wanted to add. First, I happened to be in a meeting a few weeks ago in my context as a community organizer in immigrant rights space. The sheriff had come to visit, and some of the questions that he had to answer were around what processes exist within the sheriff's office to make sure that deputies and other employees of the office are following through on their commitments and are able to hold them accountable if they're not. And his answer was very much like, very much vibes based. Like, I believe that, speaking as the sheriff, I believe that we should be upholding the sanctuary law, and I communicate that to my office, and everybody comes along with me, and everybody believes me, and that's the culture. Okay, but there's not really an explicit system set up to make sure that this happens, and so I think that this highlights a little bit the necessity of the value of the specific person who occupies that space and what they believe and what commitments that they've made to the people of Lane County. That's one thing. A second thing I would say is that, as we all know, the sheriff is an elected position, and this is relatively common for some reason in Oregon, that elected officials step down before the end of their term and someone is appointed instead of elected in their place. And I think that you all understand as elected officials the difference between being appointed to a position and being elected and having that opportunity to have the public question and judge the thing that you're bringing to this position. And I hope that you use your knowledge of that to support the idea that this needs to be an open process, one where people actually have a say and where we can actually see the people who are candidates for the position speak on these issues before we have to be subject to the rule of such a person. And finally, I would just say that, we've also seen law enforcement officers, especially sheriffs in different places around the country, try to assert their right to not follow local sanctuary laws. And more or less daring local government to hold them accountable. And, having on the record commitments to uphold Oregon's Sanctuary Promise Act, to uphold the statement that the commissioners passed several weeks ago, is a relatively small thing in that context. But I think that it's what we can do and therefore what should be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda Noble Flannery, followed by Mark Thompson.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Noble Flannery. My pronouns are she, her. I'm speaking today as part of the Trans Alliance of Lane County and as a resident of Eugene. I'm here advocating for immigrant and trans protections in light of the abhorrent federal executive orders and actions. Today, specifically, that means I'm here to comment on the process for filling the sheriff position that will become vacant later this week. From the 3 options the board has, I'm here to urge you to select the option for an open recruitment followed by public interviews of finalists. With the dire federal climate, it is extremely important that we have a sheriff who will commit publicly to uphold Oregon law and the Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act, and uphold county board commitments to update and create policies protecting the rights of our transgender and immigrant community. The sheriff is an elected position, as you know, and deserves a public process when holding an election is not possible. In our current climate, it is more important than ever to hear from the sheriff candidates that they have what it takes to uphold state and county laws and policies, even when it differs from federal efforts. People in our county continue to be very afraid, and for good reason. Having a public process to fill the vacancy will be of assurance. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Thompson, and then up next is Pam Ruber. Sorry if I got that wrong. Thank you.
My name is Mark Thompson. I live at 2335 Terrace View Drive here in Eugene. I'm here as a private citizen today, and I'm speaking just for myself, not for Food for Lane County. I volunteer as a Meals on Wheels driver, and I just received a letter from Food for Lane County, which runs this and many other food programs here in the county. Copies of the letter have been distributed. The letter says, in part, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has canceled the Commodity Credit Corporation's food purchasing program, which supplies food for Lane County with about 15% of the food we provide, which supplies food for Lane County with about 15% of the food we provide to people in our county. This is a staggering decrease of over 1.2 million pounds of food that we plan to distribute here in Lane County over the next year. The cancellation of this important program is striking when needs in our community is at an all-time high. Our pantry partners are reporting a 101% increase in visitors needing food since 2022. end quote. I can say with firsthand experience that our citizens need this food. These cuts will hurt our citizens who are most in need. In addition, it will hurt local farmers who provide this food. Lane County has a large agricultural economy that deserves our support. I believe that the Commission can help this situation by passing a resolution, a sense of the county, if you will, that urges the department to reverse its decision. And I urge the Council to make other governments in Oregon and elsewhere aware of its stance on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam Reber, I believe, followed by Jacob Griffin, please.
Hello, Chair Lovell and Commissioners. Thank you for your time today. My name is Pamela Reber. I live in Eugene, and I have government policy experience at the local, state, and county levels. I wanted to provide comment today in regards to the resignation and replacement of Sheriff Harold. First, in solidarity with the Trans Alliance of Lane County, I would like to ensure that the Sheriff's Office follows through on implementing policies that protect the rights of the transgender, immigrant, and all community members. This is particularly important because we are seeing the tenets of our democracy being called into question at the federal level. Habeas corpus, due process, and the presumption of innocence. Checks and balances between the three branches of government. These are all cornerstones of democracy. Distinct authorities and responsibilities at the local, state, and federal levels are all cornerstones of democracy. If they're reduced for anyone, they're at risk of loss for everyone. Second, I would like to ensure that the Lane County Sheriff's Office continue to uphold all Oregon laws, including the Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act. But I have concerns about whether Lane County has updated its policies to reflect the 2021 law. The Oregon Department of Justice has made this update process quite accessible by publishing a document called the Attorney General's Model Policies Regarding Immigration. This document has verbatim text that could be easily adopted by the county. And this would ensure that these laws are upheld. I am particularly concerned about the convergence of three issues. And I feel that it is important for the commissioners and county staff to lead communication to the public to ensure that we understand that the commissioners and the sheriff are on the same page about some key things. And one of those is that home rule is not conflated with the constitutional sheriff's movement. Another concern is that currently ICE is implementing rapidly across the country the 287G program, and that is allowing agreements to be put into place which essentially federalize local and state law enforcement. And I understand that, so these are three kind of complex pieces. I obviously don't have time to get into them all, but I want us to be sure that we're not conceding power and that we understand that there could be fast-moving things that would change things. I have great respect for everyone who keeps our county safe, and in my experience, the most respectful thing we can do.
Your time is up. Thank you.
As policymakers is to be sure that we are supporting staff with clear guidance. Thank you.
Jacob Griffin, followed by Brian Hund, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jacob Griffin. My pronouns are he, him. The other speakers have spoken to this particular situation. I want to give you a little background on me. I was interim library director here for about 1.5 years before I went off and became director at the Berkeley Public Library for 5 years, and then for a little over a decade as library director for Ventura County Library, where I was in charge of 12 branches. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I did not obtain one of those jobs without both private interviews with board members or members of the County Board of Supervisors, a public interview in which I was asked to give a talk and then answer questions from the public, and a meeting with the staff in order to do the same thing with them, and that doesn't include, of course, the dinners and all the other things. And my point is that no lives were on the line for my library directorship. As important and necessary as I think libraries are, they aren't a matter of someone's life or death, but a sheriff is. And a sheriff deserves at least the amount of contemplation that you would give to hiring a library director. I am personally concerned to a level that makes people think I'm paranoid that ICE will begin picking trans people up off the street, visible trans people. There doesn't seem to be anything to stand in their way of doing that. The Supreme Court on Friday said that it's okay to remove the right to serve for trans people. There has never been a right removed by the Supreme Court before. But they have removed that from us. And so I feel that we are, in fact, as the earlier person said, we are right on 1936 Nazi Germany for trans people. We are slowly and carefully being removed from every part of public life. So I don't have a particular thought about any particular person and their values as sheriff. I just know that a clear and open process is the best way to determine that we end up with the best person for the job, whether it's in a time of fascism or a time of democracy. Holding public interviews, allowing people to see what the possibilities are. It's good for the person who finally gets chosen. They get to hear other points of views and other things, and you don't stay stuck within a certain system. You have an opportunity to grow. And so I'm asking you to take that responsible position. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Hund, followed by David Eigel, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Brian Hind. I live in the Bethel area. My kids go to Clear Lake Elementary. I'm a PTO member there. I am also running for a school board seat with the Bethel School District, unopposed, so please vote on your May 20th election. So needless to say, this the illegal removal of the grant that would have paid for 6 community centers, resiliency centers, directly affected me. I was very much looking forward to having Clear Lake Elementary turn into a wonderful, brilliant, vibrant community center with a emphasis on being a place for all people of Lane County, Eastern Lane County, Western Lane County to have a place to have a resiliency center to come if their houses and their livelihood is in danger due to a forest fire, earthquake, whatever we have that will happen in the future. So when I found out that we lost that grant, it was a gut punch, and I was pretty angry about that for a few days. And then I come to find out a couple days after that this other wonderful organization that I had just joined, the Lane County Public Health Medical Reserve Corps, a member there as of last month as a non-medical person, was also on the cutting block due to the loss of this grant. And I gotta say, it's another gut punch, another thing to be angry about. But I am looking to the Lane County Commissioners here to search deep in their pocketbooks, which are certainly not bottomless, and I know there's lots of different things that have to be done. To look at deep in your pocketbook to find a space for 2 employees, just 2 employees that coordinate 15 to 20 Medical Reserve Corp volunteers that most of whom have medical experience, either retired or current, and they are willing and have donated lots of time to being a professional Medical Reserve Corps. And in those times that we have, that we know we are going to have, medical problems are going to be present. And the volunteers that we have there are vital to having successful emergency responses. So I just want to argue for 2 positions within the large aspect of Lane County, and I really appreciate all your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David Eigel, followed by Rose Wildy.
Good morning, David Eigel. In 1921, crooked fraternal order salesmen representing the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan Fraternal Order arrived in Eugene and began lying to some of the lesser lights of the public here, telling them that Professor Frederick Dunn was the head of their organization. He wasn't. It was just a trick to get money from them. That's why the only connection that you'll see in terms of memberships or anything of the sort that relates Dunn to the Klan occurs during that first year when the salesmen weren't here and were telling lies about him. The people in this community knew Dunn. He was one of the best known people here. In 1937, he died after a lifetime of love and service. He was lionized by the University of Oregon president, the Eugene community. His passing was mourned across Oregon. His fraternal order memberships were listed as the Elks and Masons. He was not listed as a member, having been a member of the Ku Klux Klan. In 1962, U of O President Arthur Fleming, the noted civil rights activist, had dedicated Dunn Hall. Fleming had requested Dunn's being honored. In 1992, for the first time since the crooked fraternal order salesman had been lying to people, a crackpot historian named Eckhart Toy, who didn't know what he was writing about, misinterpreted Dean Sheldon's letter. That Sheldon was actually laughing at the idea that Dunn would be the head of such an organization. He told a mutual friend that the wildest rumors are afloat. The whole thing's very silly. He then, Toy, in writing about this, lied. He said, oh, Dunn was perfectly comfortable in his both roles. What was his primary source documentation for this? Nothing. He just made it up. He demonstrated his lack of knowledge of who Dunn was by virtue of the fact that he called him a typical Oregon primitive, this man who graduated at age 19 as his class valedictorian, who then went on to become a Harvard-educated, well-recognized classics scholar. The Lane County has promoted this fraud through the Lane County History Museum and certain county commissioners, who I won't mention. This man's reputation, this really great man, has been smeared, and you need to take affirmative action to restore this reputation. He's one of the finest human beings this community ever produced. What's wrong with telling the truth? I thank you for your help in this matter.
Thank you, Rose Wildy, followed by the one online queue we have.
Hi, thanks for having me today. I am here to talk about a couple of things. Over the weekend, I was astounded to see the arrest of the mayor of Newark, Ross Baraka, for attempting to visit a publicly funded ICE facility in a private detention area. I was also interested to see that, like Oregon, New Jersey did actually have a ban on private prisons, and yet ICE still opened a private detention center in New Jersey, resulting in Congress members seeking to visit that facility. They were delayed for over an hour. The mayor of Newark, Ross Baraka, attempted to join them in their tour, which is a right that Congress members have without notice, without approval. They can go and tour. In that, ICE determined that the mayor was not entitled to a tour, asked him to leave. He left. Then they stepped outside the gate and arrested him anyway. They also roughed up some Congress people. Even their Republican colleagues are looking askance at ICE for their behavior. On April 28th, President Trump issued another executive order threatening sanctuary counties. So we have every reason to believe that at some point the federal government may be taking their ICE officers out of that building just right over there on 7th and Pearl and looking to arrest perhaps some of you. So you're going to want to have a sheriff who's got your back. And the public deserves to have a sheriff who they know has their back and will uphold our safety and our protection. So I'm going to leave it at that. Others here, the Trans Alliance of Lane County, have already outlined what process they would like to see, and I believe that kind of public transparency is really important. I believe this is trans-party at this point. It's no longer a partisan issue. It's really about what we all believe is right for our community, what we believe that our community stands for, what we thought our country stood for, although it perhaps never stood for everyone. And I think that we can do better here, but we're gonna have to fight to defend it, and we're gonna need all 5 of you on that team. So thank you for having me, and I hope you have a good day.
Thank you very much. Jessica, you had mentioned there was one online. Are they ready to go at this point?
Thank you, Chair. For those joining us online, if you would like to give public comment, please raise your virtual hand now. And I see one hand raised. Danielle Grease, would you like to be on camera?
It's up to you, however you think would be more effective. I don't mind.
You can go ahead and begin your public comment. We can hear you just fine.
Okay. Hello, and thank you for allowing me time to speak this morning. My name is Danielle Grace. I am the owner of Hand of the Heart Massage in downtown Springfield, where we hold a contract with Pacific Source Health Plans and Community Solutions. We serve more than 300 Lane County residents on Pacific Source, most of whom are chronic pain patients on Community Solutions. Our LMT community and other alternative care providers have been on the chopping block at Pacific Source, and soon a huge number of residents will have little to no access to the therapies that help provide them with an enhanced quality of life that they did not have without them. The result of the loss of these contracts are many. Allow me to sum up as quickly as possible. For clients, we will see an increased dependency on narcotic pain medication that are already very inaccessible in Oregon and highly addictive. Increased costly visits to emergency rooms, urgent cares, and doctor's offices that already struggle to keep up with demands. Rapid deterioration in the quality of life of the many who no longer have adequate access to the treatments to prevent all of the above. These are your friends, your neighbors, some of your family members. They are also taxpayers and voters. Access to these services is not a luxury, but an absolute necessity for them. This will also take a toll on small businesses by greatly reducing client flow due to the inability for clients to afford services that cannot be utilized without their insurance. In a business environment where profit margins are already slim, this volatility will force many providers who barely make enough to stay off state benefits back into the welfare and state healthcare system, ultimately increasing the financial burden that Pacific Source is allegedly trying to reduce. I humbly ask for any assistance you can provide in convincing Pacific Source to not only maintain a robust provider network, but also restore the numerous contracts that have already been canceled or unsuccessfully appealed. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jessica, for running that. Appreciate it very much. That concludes our public testimony time for this morning. We'd like to move on to our consent calendar, please. All items here are routine by the Board of County Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If the discussion is desired, that item would have been removed from the consent calendar and would be considered separately. Details to each item can be found in the blue links attached to the agenda item descriptions that are found on our website. I'm looking for a motion for the consent calendar.
Chair, I move to approve the consent calendar for May 13th, 2025.
Thank you. Second? Thank you, my two dependables. Appreciate that very much. I have a motion by Vice Chair and a second by Commissioner Buck to approve the consent calendar. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. We are right on schedule. Thank you, everyone, for keeping us there. We have need for exec session. I'd like to read us into exec session that we will convene in the Board of County Commissioners conference room at 9:50. The Board of County Commissioners will now meet in one executive session. The session is to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection. This executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.6602F. which allows the Board of Commissioners to meet in executive session for the purposes listed. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are precluded from attending. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. Members of the news media are not allowed to tape, video record, or otherwise record an executive session, and verbatim notes are prohibited. And no decision may be made in executive session. We will return to public session around 10:30 a.m. right here in Harris Hall. We are recessed. Welcome back from the recess for morning meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. It's still Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. I do have a small announcement before we go into our item number 5. Our item number 6, if you're here for that online, I want to say that to participate in the virtual public comment that precedes after this next item, on hearing order number 25051307. Please click on the blue link in the agenda posted on our website to register as a virtual audience participant. I wanted to give those who want to do that a little bit of time before we came into that item. So before us is item 5A, order number 25051306 in the matter of ratifying the fiscal year 25-26 Regional Wastewater Program Budget and Capital Improvements Program as approved by the Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission. Lots of acronyms there, but if you want to bring your panel forward, Mr. Matt Stouter, the Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission Executive Officer, will probably take the lead on this, sir. Welcome to Harris Hall. How are you today?
It's on.
It's live.
Is it on?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. It's on. Yeah, welcome. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here at chair level and commissioners. Okay. Thank you. To present the Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission's fiscal year 25-26 budget. With me is Michelle Miranda. She is the wastewater division director for City of Eugene. And we have in the audience Lou Alaco, Jeremy Cleversley, and James McClendon, all who provided significant input to this year's budget. And actually put it together for us. So here to ask for ratification from the board for our budget as provided in MWMC's intergovernmental agreement. And I'd like to acknowledge Commissioner Farr, who sits on our commission. We have a 7-member commission. We'll get into that in a second. And I wanted to start and preface by saying this year's budget was a significant effort to put together. It always is. And I wanted to say that we're kind of continuing to operate in a time of challenges and uncertainty. We're facing, every year we're facing increased costs and we're concerned about rates and the impacts to our customers. We're seeing inflation that's been high in the last few years. We're seeing cost of utilities and other things that chemicals and supplies that we have to purchase increase significantly. We're seeing costs for personnel, including PERS obligations that we have to pay to the cities that we pass through to the cities for who we contract with increase. And so, well, we are proud to have put together a budget that basically meets the challenges associated with protecting the environment, protecting the river, and meeting our regulatory obligations. So with that, we'll get started. Kind of the same slideshow we've showed in previous years, and it's the similar board, so we'll move quickly, but any questions that you might have, please ask during the presentation. High level, talk about history and partnerships. We'll talk a little bit about our facilities, and then we'll get into some numbers and the overall budget. I like this slide because we show it every year, but I think it's important. And so, as I've said before, the picture on the right is the Cuyahoga River in Ohio. It's on fire. It burned numerous times prior to the Clean Water Act passing in 1972. It was so polluted that a spark from a railroad car caught it on fire, and you can see it burning there. Due to that and several other similar instances and public outcry, Congress passed the Clean Water Act in 1972. They also allocated federal funds for folks to regionalize and treat wastewater on a regional basis. And Eugene, Springfield, and Lane County took advantage of that and informed the MWMC in 1977. And our regional treatment plant came online in 1984. And I think we constructed and paid for 75% of our plant with federal funds. I'd like to see that happen again today, that level of federal funding, but I think that's a pipe dream. 1989, we brought on our biosolids facility, and then we adopted a facilities plan that basically laid out a foundation for 20 years worth of work that we have just completed. And you'll see there, we're operating under an NPDES permit. We are embarking on and almost complete with a new facilities plan that's identified about $300 million worth of work over the next 20 years for us to continue treating wastewater and protecting the river and the environment. Have a 7-member commission. There's Commissioner Farr's picture on there. Representative Bill Inge is also the other Lane County representative. Our board is made up of 3 elected officials, 4 citizen representatives, And our service area consists of the urban growth boundaries for both cities, as well as some areas outside the urban growth boundary. We have about 270,000 folks that we provide service for. Springfield, the way we divvy things up is Springfield is responsible for the administration associated with MWMC. That includes oversight of the commission, oversight of the permit, our capital projects and capital planning project delivery program, those sorts of things. And Eugene is responsible for all the operations and maintenance of our facilities. We have a total asset value that's well over $500 million worth of assets. So, and I would note that we also accept septage and other hauled waste from septage haulers and folks outside the urban growth boundaries, and we get hauled waste that comes to us as far as Douglas County and other outlying areas. Okay, Michelle's going to take the next couple slides.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here. Michelle Miranda, the Division Director at the Wastewater Treatment Plant. So a little bit about our facility. Our facility operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We operate and maintain 50 pump stations in the area which convey the waste to our treatment plant in North Eugene. We're an advanced secondary treatment plant. We remove solids, oxygen demand, ammonia, and provide disinfection prior to discharge into the Willamette River. Our average summer flows are around 25 to 30 million gallons per day, but we have the capacity to treat up to 277 million gallons per day during wet weather events. And this year we saw flows as high as 240 million gallons per day. Onto our biosolids facility. So we own and operate over 600 acres on Aubrey Lane at our biosolids management facility in Poplar Farm. Biosolids are collected in large lagoons and used as fertilizer in cooperative agreements with area grass seed farmers, and also applied to our poplar trees. We maintain and manage 3 large units of poplar trees with so it's a total acreage of trees of about 400 acres, and we have about 88,000 trees on site at any time. They're divided into 3 different management units, which are harvested and replanted on 12-year rotation cycles. Our last unit harvest was in 2021, and the next one will be in 2026. The end products for the poplar trees are used locally as either wood chips, peeler veneer, or decorative paneling and trim. And you can see, if you ever go to Springfield City Hall, you'll see some of the decorative trim and ceiling panels there. We currently have, from the 2021 lumber harvest, we have some milled lumber for sale at Bring Recycling. So we partner with them to sell the trees. And then onto, back to Matt.
Yep.
Back to Matt for this.
Okay. Key outcomes. So if you read the budget document, you'll know that our work is driven by 5 key outcomes. They're shown here. I won't get into detail on why they're important. However, I would say they are tied to our strategic plan, and we have 5 key pillars that are very closely related to these. And each year, our commission goes through our key outcomes, each of which have performance indicators with them, and we tweak those performance indicators to make sure we're tracking and making meaningful progress towards meeting our goals. Our budget schedule is shown here. Prior to April 11th, we have 3 meetings with our board to talk about the budget. We talk about key outcomes and indicators and tweaks. We talk about our capital budget, and then we do a full regional operating budget presentation before doing a public hearing and adoption in April. Last week, we were at Springfield City Council for ratification of the budget, and last night we were at City of Eugene for ratification of the budget, and today we're here, hopefully getting approval of the board order ratifying our budget, and then finally we'll come back to the commission on June 13th for final adoption. So our budget is predicated on a 5% rate change that will go into effect July 1st, 2025. The rate history, 5-year rate history is shown here. It equates to about $1.60 a month for the average user, for a user using 5,000 gallons of waste monthly. I would note Springfield is higher than Eugene. About 4,200 gallons per month is what the average Springfield home uses. Eugene uses about, an average home in Eugene, about 3,500 gallons a month, and it's based on home size. So the more water you use, the more the cost it is to treat it, the more you pay. So the $1.60 a month is, this 5,000 gallons is used to compare and normalize to other cities. We didn't show a rate comparison, but routinely we come in at 50% or under of rates that are charged by other like-sized communities. And then the average user is going to pay a little bit less than that $1.60 since they use a little bit less. Okay, this is a rolled up summary of the budget. There is a 0.08 FTE add in the budget for facility maintenance on the Eugene side of the budget. And Michelle can answer questions about that if there are some. The overall personnel increase is 7.6. That includes mostly, the main driver there is PERS obligations cost. It's a PERS hit year for the cities, and we share in those costs with the cities. And then it also includes things like healthcare and then regular salaries and wages that are contracted with each city. M&S has a substantial increase, or it appears to. It's actually not as much as it appears. We have an upcoming poplar harvest that we're going to be doing. The previous poplar harvests had been managed out of our capital projects budget because they were experimental in nature, and we're trying to fine tune those harvests. And so those are no longer being paid for out of the capital budget. They're being done out of routine O&M, but they needed to be put in that budget. So that's a large reason for the increase in M&S. But then also in M&S, we have chemicals and supplies and utility costs, which have increased on the order of 8 to 10% this last year for us.
That would be material and services for the public.
Materials and services, sorry, yes. And then this shows the regional operating budget, a 5-year trend, and it has went up significantly due to basically we're a little bit different than some government services in that we rely heavily on purchasing materials and supplies and chemicals and other things, utilities that we have to have. And those have went up substantially in the last 5 years, I think, as everybody's keenly aware and seeing costs escalate across all facets of life.
Chair, if I may, a quick clarification on that. It says Eugene and Springfield. That also includes the non-incorporated areas inside the urban growth boundaries, which are Lane County. But,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And this is the Eugene and Springfield portion of the budget combined, but represents MWMC. Okay, transitioning to our capital program, talk about a few projects in a high level. Really, so we have a $98 million capital budget. It's not going to be as much as that, actually, because we just unfortunately made a decision to not move forward with our recycled water project due to a number of factors, including federal funding being potentially jeopardized, as well as some design challenges. So it's going to be more like about an $85 million budget for our CIP. And of that, probably 80% is related to aging assets that need to be upgraded and or replaced. Michelle will talk a little bit about that. But large assets like our aeration basins, it's a $30 million project. It actually came in under bids substantially, which we're happy to see, to upgrade and enhance our aeration process. We're actually, another project is we're going to be replacing our operations and maintenance console and admin building, which is the building and associated equipment that kind of controls the entire processes for the plant. This slide shows rolled up summary of our CIP. And as you'll note, most of the money is in the plant performance improvement projects. That's the kind of a couple of the projects we just referenced. There are a few things worth noting under equipment replacement, and I'll just say briefly. So we have various equipment that we replace every year. This year we're replacing a mass spectrometer, an integrated tool carrier, which is essentially like a large Caterpillar type of piece of equipment. We're replacing our mass spectrometer, our acid distillation unit, and then we're repairing a few roofs of aging buildings. So various things under equipment replacement and major rehab. And our total capital program is right at just over $100 million, and then the 5-year look there is shown. Now we'll talk specifically about a couple quick projects, and let Michelle, turn that over to Michelle.
So two of the carryover projects that we're working on is the construction of a new administration and operations building. And this project addresses operational resiliency, workplace needs at the treatment plant. So staff in the ops console were moved in March, and the existing building is being demolished. The new building will be constructed there. It was a complex move, which included the installation of a new fiber optic communications network. But it went very smoothly and actually ahead of schedule. So that's always great when you're doing a project and it's ahead of schedule. We did work with Bring Recycling to remove items of value in the old building, including cabinetry and cedar, clear cedar trim boards, and recycled as much as we could from that building. Demolition began in May, and we anticipate this project to be completed by mid-26. And then the one picture on the side of, the other side of the slide is the aeration basin project, which Matt talked about a little bit. We're updating those systems. This is the process area of the treatment plant that is responsible for most pollution removal and reduction. It's the integral to how we clean water. And we're updating the equipment and systems such as piping, electrical, communication technology, blowers, HVAC, other components. This will keep the existing systems, which were originally from 1984, reliable and able to meet, achieve our permit required performance. Some other benefits actually include efficiency, energy efficiency, and resiliency. So the aeration basins typically have the highest electrical and power demands, and we're going to be adding new high-efficiency turbo blowers and design upgrades, which will decrease the amount of electricity we need to use. And we're also going to make these basins and the process area seismically resilient. And then another big project that we're doing is the electrical switchgear and transformer replacement. So the main electrical switchgear at the plant and also at one of our major pump stations, the Willikinzie pump station, were installed in 1983. We're currently replacing and upgrading the existing switchgears and medium voltage transformers. It's critical equipment that takes utility power and distributes it to all of our process areas. And within the switchgear, the medium voltage breakers, they're safety devices. So this project is under construction right now, and we have got a completion date of probably mid-2026, and mostly due to the long lead time for equipment.
Okay, we'll wrap up here with a couple of slides. Happy to say for the third year in a row, we were recognized nationally with an award for the good work that our communications teams have been doing. You'll see a photo there of Laura Lynn and Thomas accepting the award down at the National Association of Clean Water Agencies Conference, Winter Conference in Palm Springs this last January for our work on a digital advertising campaign. So I tried to get numbers last night, and the numbers were staggering. Anyway, with the number of impressions that were made across social media, across billboard advertising, across bus advertising, they numbered in the millions. However, the goal of that campaign was just to show that everyday actions that people in the public make can add up. And so things like disposing of wipes, not in the toilet, but in the trash, cleaning out grease, not dumping grease down the drain, these everyday actions that people can take that actually add up and help keep their pipes clean and our pipes clean really do make a difference. We won an award for that, and it was, like I said, not the third national award that we've won in 3 years. The other two are obviously for different projects, but very happy to see that. And then I will say, there's a lot in this budget document. We're available to answer any questions that you might have. We just kind of scratched the surface. But with that, that concludes our presentation, and we'd ask that the board consider approval of the order ratifying the 25-26 MWMC regional budget and capital program.
Great, well done. Thank you so much. Any comments or questions from the board? Yes, Commissioner Farr.
I could go on for a long time about, I get to observe kind of from a distance the professionals at work, and it really is an amazing process. The national awards that you win just understate the excellence that you achieve through the operation of the MWMC. it's just remarkable. So I'm not going to go on all day. I was going to jokingly say I can't approve this, but you know, once again, it really is it's one of the greatest things, the most enjoyable things that I do is watch you all doing your job, because it really is poetry in motion. And I'm just proud to be an observer. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Vice Chair.
Yeah, I drive by the poplar trees daily on the way back and forth. I didn't know that I didn't know everything they were used for. I've driven by and seen them being ground up, and I thought they were just used simply to help recycle all the material that goes out there. But it's pretty cool over the years to just watch what's became out there and knowing what's going on. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, just note if you, the end product looks a lot like what the ceiling does in here. So, and also what's behind you. If you go to Springfield City Hall, there's 2 different rooms we can show you sometime. But it could easily be used in a room like this. So pretty cool. Yeah. Oh yeah, and Commissioner Farr makes pens out of it as well.
Got to make a lot of pens.
Yeah, a lot of pens.
400 acres.
And thank you for noticing the stuff in here and not getting vertigo. Good on you. I just have another public comment. I said this before the meeting started, that your budget was well put together. It was one of those budgets that I read that actually, you know, when I wanted to find something, it was easy to find and easy to understand. So whoever did all that number crunching and putting it into an appreciable manner that my brain could absorb it, well done. I appreciate that very much. All right, if there's no further, yes, Commissioner
Just
Farr.
in a brief summary, the things they didn't talk about, for instance, Clean Water University, didn't even mention Clean Water University, where we're grade school, school kids from different grade schools throughout Eugene, Springfield, and Bethel come to the plant and actually see how the plant operates. And what you do is you convert people, convert kids into believers in following a clean drop of water. They take that home. And that's a part of the communication effort, is getting into houses through children, which is one of the, anybody who has children knows that's the best way to get to the parents, the children. And then I would also mention that, that the effort of the fair, you know, it's actually drinking the water that's been processed. No, I'm kidding, that's not what we do. But, you know, just the outreach that occurs with through the agency, it just really is wonderful to behold. And I am, once again, very proud to be a part of the organization, very proud to watch the work that's done. And you, a couple of other things we didn't talk about, hooking in with natural gas, for instance. You know, you did mention what our key outcomes are, high environmental standards. We used to flare the gas and then made some kind of rough propane out.
Yeah, about 50% of the power costs for the plant were covered by the running of the engine generator, but now we flare a lot less and clean it and put it into the Northwest Natural Gas pipe.
It's a renewable natural gas.
We're capturing a lot more of it.
We all benefit from. And,
we didn't get into it, but the digesters create methane gas that we were flaring. If you're wondering how we have an 8.5% budget increase, but only a 5% rate adjustment, it's because we get revenue from that gas, about $1.5 million to $2 million a year. That helps us offset rates, and so we're all about resource recovery and trying to find alternative sources of revenue to help keep our rates down for our community members.
And clearly one thing that you don't talk about too often, but it really is evident, the partnership that you have forged with other environmental groups to make sure that we're in partnership and providing shade for water for the rivers. I stumble over my words, but I listen to this intently as you move, you know, as we get the presentations on it. So it's, once again, Chair, we could sit here and listen to it for a long, long, long time and still not hear all of the things that happen at WWNC. And once again, thank you.
All right, is there any other comments? I'm looking for a motion on this order. Vice Chair, go ahead. Or Commissioner Farr, do you want to do that, or do you want Vice Chair to do that?
Let me find the motion. I will do it.
Okay,
Sorry, I'm not
we'll stand by.
prepared. Busy watching the presentation. I move Order 2505-1306 in the matter of ratifying the fiscal year 2025-26 Regional Wastewater Program Budget and Capital Improvement Program as approved by the MWMC Commission. That's the end of the motion. There's a lot of words after that, but that's the end of the motion. Thanks.
Second.
Second by the Vice Chair. All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Farr. Move approval of Board Order 25051306, ratifying the fiscal year 25-26 Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission Regional Wastewater Program Budget and Capital Improvements Program as presented. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to come here. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Have a great day, y'all. Thank you back there for coming too. Appreciate it. As we move through our agenda item, we come to our agenda item B under our county administration. And Mr. Mokryski, looks like you might have an elections update for us or some announcements.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. I have three, well, actually I have two updates, and then I am prepared, but I presume you may have a conversation under Commissioner's business regarding the discussion about the appointment of sheriff, so I'm prepared with, as is the County Council. In terms of elections, the elections live stream is now live and viewable at lanecounty.org/elections or lanecounty.or.gov. Catch it either way, but lanecounty.org/elections. Our ballot collection teams are running regular pickup routes to all 24 ballot drop sites in Lane County. Ballots should have been delivered, so everyone should have their ballot. Should have been delivered by May 8th. Voters who haven't received a ballot should contact the elections office. You can find all the information for contacts on our website. Final day for elections office to mail replacement ballots is May 15th. All replacement requests after May 15th must be picked up in person at the clerk's office, which is 275 West 10th Avenue. Return dashboards are live as of May 9th. They'll be updated regularly with new data as it's available. As of Monday, May 12th, Lane County Elections has accepted 20,953 ballots for a total of just over 7.5% participation so far. The first day of ballot deconstruction will be May 16th, and the first results of the election will be posted on election night, May 20th at 8 p.m. It's your elections update. Then I have a quick update on strategic plan process. We continue to work towards a final version of our 2025-2027 Lane County strategic plan. The draft plan is now available for review and feedback on our website, lanecounty.org/strategic plan or lanecounty.or.gov/strategic plan. We hosted virtual open houses for the community and employees yesterday, and we're hosting an in-person open house tomorrow, which is Wednesday, May 14th, for the community and employees. The in-person community open house will be held here in Harris Hall, Wednesday, May 14th, from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. So anyone interested, any Lane County resident that's interested in coming in, hearing what is in the draft plan and providing input on that is welcome to join us at from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. in Harris Hall, Wednesday, May 14th. We're also holding additional employee open houses at several of our other locations, Martin Luther King Boulevard County facilities, Charlton facility, the Delta campus are all happening next week. In addition, we're hosting a survey May 12th to 25th for anyone who's unable to participate in the open houses that are happening. So you can provide your feedback on the draft plan. That community survey can be accessed from our website at lanecounty.or.gov/strategic plan. And we're holding time for the board on June 24th on your agenda for final review and anticipated adoption of the final plan. So a lot of work. It's been months in the making to have this strategic plan developed. It's still in draft form, still opportunity for public comment and employee feedback over the next few weeks. Again, I have information related to the sheriff's appointment. I'll hold on that in the event that you want to have that conversation under your business. That's it.
All right. Well done. Thank you, sir. We have a Public Works item A, which is a public hearing for order number 25051307 in the matter of surrendering 8 county roads and 3 county maintained roads to the city of Eugene with a public hearing. This public hearing is being held pursuant to ORS 373.270 to allow for public testimony prior to the Board of Commissioners' action of approving or denying the City of Eugene's request to obtain jurisdictions of portions of the 8 county roads and 3 county maintained roads. Thank you. If approved, the board can adopt a final order to surrender the 11 subject roads to the County of Eugene. So at this point of this public hearing, I'd like to call for some disclosures and ex parte context from the board due to interests or biases. If there is any, please disclose them at this time. I'll start to my far right, Commissioner Buck.
None.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
None.
Thank you. Commissioner Parr.
I have none.
Thank you. Commissioner Trigger.
None.
Thank you, and I have none too. Thank you for that. So I'd like to formally open the public hearing at this point. And seeing the vast number of people, the staff, you have plenty of time to give us your brief there, Mr. Blumé, our county surveyor. So please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Lovell. Good morning, Commissioners. As you stated, I'm here in the matter of the surrender of 8 county roads and 3 county maintained roads to the City of Eugene. The city has requested Lane County surrender jurisdiction of the roads pursuant to City Resolution 5435, dated February 24th, 2025. That is attached as Exhibit C to the agenda item material I've provided you. The board approved today's public hearing on April 8th pursuant to Order 25040807. ORS 373.270 requires a public hearing for road surrenders to city jurisdictions be set to allow testimony be entered into the public record prior to decision by the board. Public notice of this matter was published in the Register Guard 1 day a week for 4 consecutive weeks, beginning on April 21st, 2025, meeting all statutory requirements for notice of public hearings per ORS 368. The segments of the 8 county roads and county maintained roads are all located within Eugene city limits and consist of approximately 3.82 miles of road right-of-way collectively. I have some slides here. I will go through each of the roads just so that you have a better idea of what we are proposing to surrender. So the first road we have here is Willamette Street, which is County Roads numbers 113 and 2249. South Willamette Street was first established as a county road in 1900 with a 60-foot right-of-way width. A portion of the road was altered in 1996 and currently has a variable width right-of-way. The section of South Willamette Street herein proposed to be surrendered to the city is approximately 0.24 miles in length and is generally located between Spencer Creek Drive and the current UGB line. The next road is Hunsaker Lane and Beaver Street, which is actually 2 county roads, but as you can see, it's one segment. Hunsaker Lane and Beaver Street are both located in Santa Clara. Hunsaker Lane was established as a county road in 1931 with a 30-foot right-of-way width. Beaver Street was established as an extension on the east end of Hunsaker Lane in 1946. It had a 40-foot right-of-way width. Over time, additional right-of-way has been dedicated along both roads, resulting in a variable width right-of-way. The roads are located between River Road and Ross Lane and comprise of approximately 0.57 miles in length collectively. Next road we have is Maxwell Road, County Road number 1008. The city's asked for jurisdictional transfer of this segment of Maxwell Road that is located between Prairie Road and the Union Pacific Railroad. It's approximately 0.28 miles in length. Maxwell Road was established as a county road in 1925 with a 50-foot right-of-way width. This road has also acquired additional right-of-way over the years, resulting in a variable width right-of-way. Our next road is Howard Avenue, County Road 1072. Howard Avenue was established as a county road in 1930 with a 50-foot right-of-way width. As Same theme as the other roads. It's acquired additional right-of-way over time and is variable width this time. The segment of Howard Avenue proposed to be surrendered lies between North Park Avenue and River Road, which consists of just under 1 mile of right-of-way. Our next road is North Park Avenue, County Road number 1008. North Park Avenue was established as a county road in 1925 and had a 40-foot right-of-way width. The segment being surrendered lies between Maxwell Road to the north and Howard Avenue to the south, and consists of approximately 0.15 miles in length. The next road here proposed to be surrendered is River Loop number 1, which was established by petition in 1893 with a 50-foot right-of-way width. The segment proposed to be surrendered begins at the east end of Wilkes Drive and ends at the current UGB line for a length of approximately 0.26 miles. Our next road is River Loop number 2, County Road number 644. River Loop number 2 was established in 1909 with the 40-foot right-of-way width. The road's current width is 60 feet due to additional right-of-way dedications and dedications through the subdivision process. The segment of River Loop number 2 proposed to be surrendered begins at Robbie Street and runs in an easterly direction ending at the current UGB line. This road segment also measures approximately 0.26 miles in length. Our last roads are the 3 county maintained roads, which comprise of Wilkes Drive, Wilkes Frontage Road, and Wilkes Frontage Road Stub. These are all county maintained roads. In the 1970s, Lane County purchased properties on the north side of the original Wilkes Drive alignment on the most westerly end near River Road for the purpose of realigning its intersection with River Road. Our office has expended multiple hours of research time searching for an establishment order for these roads. To this date, we have never found one. It is our opinion, based on the research conducted, that it was the intent to establish Wilkes Drive as a county road after the completion of the 1970s realignment. All 3 roads have been maintained by the county for decades. In jurisdictional transfer discussions with the city of Eugene, it was agreed that we would include these roads in these proceedings to formalize and document the jurisdictional transfer of the maintenance and operational responsibilities from Lane County to the city. The segment of Wilkes Drive collectively to be transferred lies between River Road and River Loop number 1 and is approximately 1.11 miles in length. This concludes my presentation at this time. I'd like to turn this back over to you. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. It seems like now it's time to ask for any public testimony, and I don't see any signed up on sheet, and I've been notified that there isn't any online. So if there's any additional comments or questions for Mr. Blumay, now is the time, board, if you have any. Yes, Commissioner Farr.
I can wait till after the public hearing is closed, or I can just a couple of kind of historical statements.
Okay, so we'd like to close the public hearing, and then we'll go to comments. The public hearing is now closed. Please proceed.
I'm fascinated by your work. You know, I look at the old aerial maps and see where what these roads used to be, and you know, 7 of the 8 roads were in my state rep. The years I was a state rep, they were in that district. They're all 7 in North Eugene. None are in the North Eugene County Commission District, so they're all in West Lane, I think, is where everything is. But the cool one is Hunsaker Lane. If you follow the track in old aerials of Hunsaker Lane, it becomes Irving, it becomes Clear Lake Road, goes out past what is now Fern Ridge, it wasn't always, and then it becomes Lawrence Road. So what starts at Beaver ends up at Goldson on Highway 36, the same road, same continuous road, a couple of stop signs and 1 traffic light. And it just is fascinating as things evolve, and to turn these over to, after all these years, it's the appropriate thing to do at this point in time, because as the city grows, clearly, you know, the type of roadways that are required inside of urban growth boundaries are different than the type of roadways that we're prepared to maintain. So I agree with all of these. But it does point out that those 7 roads, as I mentioned, are not in the North Eugene district. And Willamette Street, this section of Willamette, is not in the South Eugene district. So those roads are inside the city limit, the urban growth boundary of Eugene, but not in either the North or South Eugene County Commission district, which along with the Fairmont area makes it so that in the next election and in future years, all 5 county commissioners can be from Eugene. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Buck.
Thank you. Thank you for reading this. I kind of wish every month we had, 8, 10 different roads within urban growth boundaries of cities that we could pass on. That would be really great, including those LARs that we've been talking about. It's fascinating to me that Howard Avenue started in 1925. It took 100 years for it to transfer to the city jurisdiction. I find that amazing because there's so many little segments throughout the cities, and not just Eugene, but of all 12 of our cities that we have jurisdiction over, but it makes zero sense that we're the ones that are held responsible when those folks live and work in cities. So I think my question ultimately is to you is, why can't we do more of these? What is stopping us from being able to transfer these roads and responsibilities to the areas that make the most sense, which are the cities that they're in?
Well, Commissioner Buck, I can tell you that Lane County staff works very diligently with both the city of Eugene and city of Springfield in discussions to, transfer these roads over. There's several roadblocks. Number one, the roads need to be annexed into city limits prior to the city requesting jurisdiction be transferred to them. But I think, over the years, there's been a reluctance from the cities to bring additional road miles into their system, just for the simple fact that it's just more money to maintain them. So the city of Eugene has been a great partner in the last year or two. They've taken on several of our roads, and we hope to continue that partnership in the future.
Great. I hope to see that too. More of these would be wonderful.
Yes, Vice Chair.
Yes, I will continue on with the applause. I truly do appreciate this, Mr. Boumé. I mean, we've had some, not just here in Harris Hall, but in a lot of the community organization meetings I've had. There's people that want to see this happen. I don't have to explain to you that this is just a jurisdictional nightmare when we start getting further and further into this. Between our sheriff's department and Eugene Police and ordinances that are here and not there, and neighbors that can have things enforced, and these kind of things just make sense. This is what needs to continue to happen. I think all but one of the roads were actually in what's considered West Lane. So I applaud your work, and thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to making a motion on this. Continue on.
Great. Well, Jay, I can recall how Hunsaker Lane has changed over the years. I used to live as a kid out in River Loop number 2, and I can tell you the exact speed in a 1961 Volkswagen Beetle it takes to feel airborne on a certain section of that Hunsaker Way when it was old, but we won't go there. But thank you again for all of your hard work on this and the staff's work as well behind you. You guys did a great job. And thank you for the tour that you gave us a week or so ago on your new digs and all the surveying paraphernalia on your wall. That was really interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's great having you.
All right, staff, there's no more comments or questions. I'm ready for a motion.
Chair, I move to approve order number 2505-1307 in the matter of the surrender of 8 county roads and 3 county maintained roads to the city of Eugene.
Great. Is there a second? Thank you. It's been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Buck to approve order 2505-1307 in the matter of surrendering portions of 8 county roads and 3 county maintained roads to the city of Eugene. Is there any discussion to the motion? Seeing quiet and none, I'll call for the vote. All those in, oh, this is not a roll call, this is an order.
I'm
Our roll
sorry,
call's
my other
in
one.
the afternoon. Thanks for reminding me, though.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. And if there's no other discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Well done, sir. Thank you, and go have a great lunch on us.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, our next item up for bid is our commissioner's business. We do have announcements and some commissioner comments. I'll just go ahead and combine those if there's any commissioners that have any announcements or comments. Yes, Commissioner Trieger.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of things. One, as Mr. Mokrahysky mentioned, I do have, actually have 2 assignments when we get to that. But for announcements and comments, on the announcement side, I sit on the advisory board for the Wayne Morse Historical Park Corporation. This is their most recent newsletter. And there is the annual open house coming up this coming Sunday from noon to 5, and it's noon to 4. And this is on Crest Drive in Eugene, and it is the historic farm that the Morse family owned. And there is a nonprofit, the Historical Park, that maintains the collection from Senator Morse. And so a lot of really interesting items are on display, and there's folks there to talk to, and there's ice cream, and it's a lot of fun. So just encourage people to come on out on Sunday if they're interested. And then just an appreciation to staff and everyone who was able to attend last Friday's ribbon cutting ceremony for the Coquel Tribe opioid treatment program at the Coquel Health Center out in Santa Clara. I was able to attend that. Really well attended, met several tribal council members and tribal elders and folks from our Health and Human Services Division and Community Justice programs were in attendance, and it was just a really one of those rare opportunities to have nothing but a feel-good celebratory event related to healthcare and healthcare access these days. So just a thank you to everyone who worked so hard to make that happen. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Anyone else, maybe some committee reports? Commissioner Farr.
Thank you. I do have a couple, but first regarding the Coquel Wellness Center, Chief Junker and Chair Mead were there. Commissioner Seneca and I were not there. We were at the Three Rivers Foundation their grant distribution meeting, which was an all-day meeting. Three Rivers is the Klusi, the Coos, Lower Umpqua, Siuslaw Indians, and we're on the foundation board. And you can talk more about it, but we distribute about $1 million worth every year to local nonprofits. They submit grants, and we had, Ryan, I think we had 250 grant submissions this year that we had to go through. 250, and we narrowed it down, and the next in early June the distribution will take place. That was good, and Chief Junker and Chair Mead understood that we were not able to be there because of the other obligation that we had. The second thing I'll mention is that the Multi-Agency Collaborative, which is the group that has directed all in Lane County the distribution of funds from Gubernatorial Order 2302. Voted informally at the last meeting that we had last week to continue that group and not to merge with the Poverty and Homelessness Board, to merge its efforts with the Poverty and Homelessness Board. I was in support of that for one reason. This board doesn't have elected officials on it. It has mainly the people who are representing agencies, or there is some lived experience on that board. There's one elected official, and that is me. I told them they could kick me off anytime, and I'm there as a representative of the Poverty and Homelessness Board and not as a Lane County elected official. So that board will stay in place, and we'll see what happens with gubernatorial funding and other funding that directs through all in Lane County. So that's in place, and staff is, I was concerned, Mr. Mokrahysky, that staff would be too much bandwidth to maintain both, and they assured me that everything merges well enough together that it's not additional burden to them. They'll probably report to you regarding that. Then the other thing I will report on is that well, I already talked about the three of us. We're all on boards and commissions, and I appreciate the work that we all do. And quite often, and I know Commissioner Buck, each one of us sits on boards, and we do a lot of work on those boards. You sit on the Housing Authority Board, And, you know, it's a lot of work. How many meetings a month do you have? I don't know, you have 3 or 4 or 5 meetings a month sometimes, and it's a great deal of effort and a great deal of responsibility that goes into it. And we don't talk about it very often. But I like this moment where we can talk about what we do for the entire, what each one of us does for the entire Board of Commissioners as a representative. So good work on that. If you were to watch Commissioner Buck on that committee, she serves as a leader. After the reorganization, the governance change on that committee, there were only 2 commissioners on there. Used to be all 5 commissioners. Commissioner Buck has stepped up as a real leader on that board. So.
Well done. Any other committee reports? Vice Chair.
Yeah, I'm just going to add on a little bit to Commissioner Farr with the Three Rivers Foundation. What a fulfilling day, and not only do we get 250 applicants in front of us that we go through with tribal council and some other committee or community members, we go through each and every one of those grants line by line and talk amongst each other and decide yay or nay or how much, and it's a real bonding time, and you learn a lot about the tribes. I'm sure most of us here know Chief Barrett, and he's very outspoken. And to take in his perspective on what they're doing in the community and what we can do to help facilitate that, it's a great time. And it's all day, and you are absolutely whipped, tired of looking at numbers and discussing things. And I can't wait to do it again next year. When they asked me to do it 3 years ago, was the first year I did it. I remember thinking, oh, what a great time. And it is, but you don't realize the weight that's on your shoulders because there's so many great things you have to say no to. But even with the amount of money they do give away, it's not near enough. So I'm really grateful for that time, and thanks for bringing it up, Pat. Appreciate it.
All right, let's move on to future board assignments. I see Commissioner Farr's hand waving exuberantly and excitedly at the end of the board, so go ahead.
And this is one I've been thinking about a very long time, and we had testimony this morning that wrapped into it about moving forward with the appointment of the replacement for Sheriff Harold. And at this point, an open process is required, and also expeditious process is required. And I was wondering if Mr. Bovet, could you describe what would the fastest, the most time-efficient way to appoint, to fill Sheriff Harold's position?
You bet, Commissioner. And actually, 3 of us could cover this. Mr. McBride's over there, and Mr. Mokrowski. We all have the same dates that I'll just kind of run through. This is essentially what HR has provided us as an outline following past pattern and practice of what the board has done in the past. So I'll just spit out some dates and see if it sounds good to the board. So we would propose to open the recruitment May 16th, which is this Friday. Give priority review date, so begin to start to review applications received May 23rd. Have a closing date of May 27th. And then begin the screening process for minimum qualifications and complete that by May 29th. And then, if it meets with the board's nods, schedule public session interviews with the referred candidates for June 11th, 2025, which is a Wednesday. Your regular meeting would be the Tuesday before. And then theoretically, if you had a majority of the board choosing a candidate, you could actually make the decision that day. And that would be kind of consistent with what you've done in the past.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bovet. I think, so that's as expeditious. And, you know, the open process is absolutely essential. We heard that not just from the folks in the room this morning, but everybody I talked to. How are we going to choose a sheriff? How do you make sure that it's an open process? And Ms. McBride, you're here to help us with that a little bit. I mean, HR, that's what you do. You provide open processes in areas that they need to be open. But doing it as quickly as possible, why would we want to do it as quickly as possible? In my mind, emergencies can happen anytime. And in the case of an emergency, the sheriff assumes a great deal of responsibility. And consequently, we cannot be, as a county, we just don't have the ability to operate without a sheriff for any period of time. And if the emergency were to occur, in that alone, then we just need to have the public safety system in place. So I think for the stability of the Sheriff's Department and the stability of our emergency efforts, I think we need to move forward as quickly as possible with an appointment of a sheriff to replace outgoing Sheriff Harold. Thank you. So that would be my assignment, Ms. Mokrajski. I'm not sure what the discussion is going to be around that, is that we move forward with a process such as the one that Mr. Bovet has outlined to us.
Before we go on to discussion, Mr. McBride, do you have anything to add to that? I don't. Okay, super. Commissioner Trieger, please.
Thank you. As I mentioned, thank you for bringing that assignment forward. It is essentially the same assignment as I wanted to raise, although with a slight difference in that I am less concerned about the timeline pending the answer to these questions to our county council, which is, it is my understanding that if we did nothing, if we took no action, Chief Deputy Wilkerson becomes the acting sheriff until a sheriff is elected next May. So we don't actually have to take action. We're not without a sheriff in the absence of action. Is that correct?
Yes, you would have an acting sheriff rather than appointed sheriff. So there are legal differences, but yes, immediately upon Sheriff Harold's effective resignation, the chief deputy becomes the acting sheriff.
And there will be an election next May for the role, and anyone could file to run in that election regardless of any action we may take between now and that election. And I understand the filing is, roughly mid-September to mid-March of next year. That's also true?
That's also true. It could theoretically, depending on how many people file, kick it out to November, but it would be decided in 2026 with a swear-in date of January 2027.
Right, thank you. I mean, essentially what I'm just, for the public's sake, there is an election for this position regardless of what the board does, whether to choose to do nothing and act with an acting, choose to appoint, at which time he becomes appointed but still not elected. He has to stand for election even if we appoint our chief deputy, just to put that clarification. So that is the most open of all processes there are. Each one of us has stood for that process. So just wanting to get that clarification out there. And so to the timeline, I'm not opposed to it, but I also want to be sure that, we're in budget cycle, there's a lot happening, that this is a timeline that really works for staff and that allows us to have things properly noticed, because clearly there's a lot of public interest in this. And so I didn't know if there might be an opportunity, if we work back from this timeline where June 11 would be public interviews, there's an opportunity to have some kind of presentation on the agenda, publicly noticed, as to what these options are and what the process looks like, that digs a little more into some of these questions and clarifications of process I've offered today.
And I'm not sure if that's a question for me. Certainly, you wouldn't necessarily have to make a decision on June 11th. You could, kick out a decision if there wasn't agreement or you wanted to deliberate later. We could also kick out all of these dates. In terms of your question about whether or not this affords staff adequate time, I'm assuming, and Mr. McBride can correct me if I'm wrong, since these are the dates proposed by HR, but they're good with these dates. And in essence, the forms and the process, we have, because we did it recently.
Great. Yeah, I think all I'm getting at is clearly there's public attention and interest, and I am not suggesting in any way this is what's happening, but that sometimes moving quickly through a process can be seen as a way to sort of keep it from being as transparent or allowing it as much time to breathe as the community seems potentially to be asking for. So that's why I'm asking if we're going to stick with this timeline, that we get something on the agenda where you can spell all these options out and what the process looks like as a publicly noticed item to County Council. So the community is sort of brought along with us, because people aren't in the room anymore right now. A lot of folks were testifying and they're not hearing this conversation. So putting sort of a version of this conversation on the agenda before we actually do interviews, so people know exactly what all we considered.
And assuming, let's just make a rash assumption that we get nods here to proceed with this, I think we probably ought to put it on next week's agenda for exactly what the commissioner is describing, kind of letting everybody know what all the dates are officially and explaining the process and letting folks know, where they can observe all the the deliberations and all of that stuff. And we can do that by next week and essentially have a miniature presentation about the process.
Great. Then I would ask Commissioner Farr, are you willing to sort of expand your assignment to include having something next week to publicly demonstrate all the options and the process?
I will reiterate my assignment, yeah, sure.
Great.
And when the chair's ready for the reiteration, I will do that.
Okay, let's look for some more discussion. Commissioner Buck, do you have anything? Go ahead.
Sure. I'll just share that I think Commissioner Farr and I were the only ones who were here when we did the last appointment process, which was shortly after I became commissioner. And it was open. It seemed really transparent, and we did have an outside candidate, and everybody got a fair shot. So I want to reassure the public that the process that we did before, I really had confidence in, and I think that's the process that we're moving forward with, and I think we'll have a good outcome as well. As long as we are making sure that we've shared with the public in advance as possible so that they have the opportunity to come and either ask questions if it's a public open forum for candidates to meet with people. I don't really know how that will end up being, if that's part of the process or not. Maybe some clarity around that would be helpful. But people can always watch our interviews as well. Clearly, they've asked for us to convey a couple of questions, which is fair, or maybe they'll ask them individually if it's an open forum with the candidates. But either way, the way in which it's presented to move forward, I have the most confidence in.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I wasn't sitting here, but I remember the last time that the county did go through this process, and I would assume we would just follow that timeline. And this is as much for, in my mind, this is as much for the sheriff's office as it is for the public also. Just relieve some of that uncertainty that they're all dealing with when a tremendous leader such as Sheriff Harold is leaving. I'm sure that leaves a lot of angst with them. So I would like to get this process completed in a thorough way.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, I would agree with all the colleagues that have aforementioned me. The thing I want to stress for the public too is that, there is a timeline that we've laid out ahead, and that timeline was also followed by the last two sheriff appointments in approximately the same sort of timeline. So I'm not thinking that hearing that there's less transparency for this timeline versus before. I think it has opportunities for a lot of good transparency. And also too, for the public listening, those filing to be the next Lane County Sheriff must meet a very specific criteria of qualifications, one of which they have to have lived in Lane County for 2 years. So there's a very narrow window of those who qualify for such a position at this time. It's not like we're doing an international or a nationwide search for that position. And further, I want to also remind the public that the last county sheriff was elected overwhelmingly by a majority for his attributes, for his leadership, for his professionalism, and for the training of which follows him in the culture of his office. And the emails and recommendations that I've been given on Under Sheriff Carl Wilkerson is that he is as near to Cliff Harold, the sheriff, as could be. And so I think we as a board owe the voters of this county a responsible choice that depicts and reflects the sheriff that they overwhelmingly voted. And I want to read just one thing too that was sent to me that I want to put out in the public and on the public record. Carl Wilkerson's the most commendable attributes are his unwavering integrity and ethical conduct. He operates with transparency and fairness, earning him the trust and respect of both his colleagues in Lane County and beyond. And I think if everyone that I've heard in this public venue in Harris Hall understands that all of us can gather under that banner of unwavering integrity and ethical conduct and trust and respect, not only here but abroad in the state as well. And so I would like to also just say that this process is, I believe, going to position the best candidate for the job and the best candidate for what our public is asking us to put in this position. So, Commissioner Farr, if you'd like to reiterate your work order, I'd love to hear it, sir.
I'm ready to do that. First, this will be my fourth sheriff. When I was elected, Tom Turner was serving as acting sheriff. In 2010, President Obama appointed our sheriff to be a U.S. Marshal. That was Russ Berger, and Tom Turner came in after that. So we appointed him sheriff, and then he was subsequently elected sheriff. We appointed Byron Trapp sheriff, and he was subsequently elected. We appointed Cliff Harold, the current sheriff, and he was subsequently elected. And whoever we appoint next will stand election, as Commissioner Trigger has stated, in the May election of next year. And that is the ultimate test of who is going to serve, and that's who do the people elect. So we do have a responsibility. And so my assignment then, I'll read it with a slight amendment from what I had initially, is that we would begin recruitment on May 16th, close May 27th, with public interviews on June 11th, and a discussion, deliberation, and executive session following the public interviews. Mr. Mokrowski, I'm very, very specific with this. If you have to tailor it a little bit to make it work for staff, that's cool. The other thing I'd like to add is that between now and May 27th, which is the closing, that we would have a board work session regarding the process that we're going through and regarding public awareness as to the appointment process for the sheriff.
Mr. Trigger.
Thank you. I just have one question before I head nod that enthusiastically. You mentioned something about an executive session?
To discuss the interviews, after the interviews.
Is that what was done in the past? Is that customary? I'm looking to people who know and were here.
You know, I wasn't here for your last one. If you conducted your deliberations in executive session, you could.
I'll
do it
remove
in
executive.
open session.
Let's leave that off.
Thank
and then if it is, it is. If it isn't, it isn't. So
I'm not
whatever
sure.
is the protocol.
But it could be done either way.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Okay, I'm looking for head nods. I see five head nods. Awesome, great. We'll proceed on. Thank you, Ms. McBride, for your information. Council, thank you for your information, and colleagues, thank you for your input. Mr. Mokrowski, let's review the assignment, please, and we can move on to our recess into our afternoon item.
Just that one, Chair, the Commissioner Farr's request to open the position of sheriff for recruitment with interviews scheduled for June 11th and a board work session between now and then.
Awesome, thank you very much. If there is any other business for the good of the order?
One more item.
One more item. Commissioner Farr.
And Commissioner Tree knows I'm remiss in not pointing out that if you look across the street, and after this gavel goes down, you have the opportunity to go over there and buy stuff from the farmer's market.
There you go. Awesome, thank you for that reminder. All right, we will recess for our 1:30 gathering back here in Harris Hall. We are recessed.